Have you ever dedicated yourself so much to someone that they almost forgot about you? Have you ever given everything you had, time, affection, sacrifices, and still been left behind like a burden? Well, that's how it all started. A lottery ticket, a promise of love, and a daughter who traded her mother for fame and fortune. It sounds like a soap opera script, but it's real. And it happens more often than we imagine. In this video, you will learn the story of a woman who raised her daughter with love, gave up her own dreams, and, when luck finally knocked on her door, she was thrown out, literally. But what no one expected was that this silent mother had a strength that she herself didn't even know she had. Get ready to feel indignation, root for justice, and above all, be inspired. Because when pain meets courage, a strength is born that not even time can erase. And sometimes it is in silence that the soul screams the loudest. Being a mother means learning to give before you receive. Marjorie never cared about medals or thanks. She gave because it was hers. Simple as that. Taking care of her daughter, even after she was an adult, was not an obligation. It was instinct, and this became even stronger when her grandchildren came along. Little pieces of life that demanded a strength from her that she didn't even know she still had. The house was modest, with the same tiles from the 1980s and a worn frying pan that had seen many mornings. But it was cozy. It was full of love. She was the one who made the coffee, sorted the uniforms, bathed the kids, and pretended everything was fine, even when the bills were late or her body ached too much to get out of bed. For years, she supported more than just the roof over her head. She also supported Hope. Her daughter, always restless, said she needed some time, a fresh start, a new cycle. And Marjorie believed her. She always believed her. She sold pieces of her old trousseau, canceled trips that never happened, and stepped back so her daughter could move forward. She always said, "We help each other. We are a team." And she believed it wholeheartedly, even when it meant giving up her own retirement to pay her daughter's rent. Even when she, who had dreamed so much of peace and quiet in her old age, found herself scraping together coins to buy milk for her children. But she didn't complain. Because the invisible sacrifice was part of the silent motherhood that she proudly assumed. The sleepless nights returned, but not because of a child's fever. Now they were because of bills. Her feet were swollen, her back ached, her eyes heavy. She was tired, yes, but the slightest sign of her daughter's need was enough for her to put her pain on hold. It had always been like that, a dedication that came from within, without a contract, without a deadline. She remembered the day her daughter fell off her bike and screamed "Mommy" through scraped knees. It was the same scream she heard silently now, when her daughter came home late, irritated, venting the frustrations of the day. Marjorie just listened. Sometimes she responded with a hot tea. Other times, with silence and prayer. Every fold in the sheets, every shirt ironed with care, was a silent cry of love, even when her daughter began to treat it as an obligation, as something expected, almost automatic. The grandmother became an employee. The woman became a shadow. And even so, Marjorie continued to believe. One day, everything will work out. One day, she will see. With her grandchildren, it was different. Their gaze was still pure. "Grandma, will you sleep with me tonight?" they would ask, and she would. Because in these small requests, there was still room for light love, the love that doesn't demand so much. She clung to these moments like someone holding on to the last button of an old shirt that refuses to rip. What she didn't realize, or pretended not to realize, was that she was putting herself off until later, and later never came. There was no time for a manicure, for friends, or for going to the market in peace. The woman who once dreamed of independence now dreamed of 30 minutes of silence, and she didn't even have that. But she still smiled, until one day she felt something different. It wasn't hurt. It was exhaustion, a feeling that she had given so much that it was starting to fade. And there, without screaming, without drama, Marjorie began to understand that even love has a limit. Hers hadn't come yet, but it was close. Very close. It was just a lottery ticket. $2, random numbers, a scribble in the corner. But for Marjorie, it held much more than a chance at fortune. It was the symbol of a connection that was still trying to survive. Every week, she and her daughter had the same ritual. They bought tickets together, laughed at the odds, and dreamed of the impossible. It wasn't about the prize, it was about the moment. It was when they sat side by side in the kitchen, with the tickets lined up like tarot cards on the table and hope served with the tea. Her daughter would laugh, talk about her debts, her plans, and say, "If I win, half is yours, Mother." And Marjorie would smile, more out of affection than promise. Her daughter always chose numbers for important dates, her children's birthdays, her wedding day, which didn't last, and even the number of her old house. Marjorie let fate choose. "Maybe luck likes surprises," she would say. It was a subtle exchange between them, a small habit, but one that sustained a bond that was growing increasingly fragile. Amidst scattered toys, pots on the stove, and the noise of children's TV, those conversations about the lottery were like breathing space. There, mother and daughter were almost friends again. Almost. Marjorie nurtured the illusion that their partnership was still there, that the differences, the conflicts, the wear and tear, everything could be resolved with a winning ticket. She collected the old notes in an old shoebox, kept under her bed, like someone who keeps letters from a past love. Some scratched, others intact, all without monetary value. But for her, they were reminders that at some point, her daughter still dreamed of her. And not just for her. There was one rainy night when her daughter said through laughter and tears, "If I win, I'll give you a house with a porch and a rocking chair. You'll be able to rest, Mom," Marjorie believed. Not because I was innocent, but because I wanted to believe. Because sometimes the faith we have in people is all we have left. Those words stuck with her. More than promises, they became anchors. When the bills got tight, when her daughter disappeared for days, when discouragement weighed on her, she remembered the porch, the rocking chair, the "Go rest, Mom." That was enough to get her through another week, another sleepless night. But over time, even the ritual began to change. The daughter would stay on her cell phone while they checked the numbers. She would yawn, she would scoff, she would not always buy the ticket. "Oh, I don't have time today." The complicity gave way to haste, to coldness, and the shared dreams began to turn into silent monologues from the mother. Marjorie still insisted. She bought both tickets even when her daughter didn't remember. She kept one for herself. She waited. She still believed, because a mother waits, always waits, even when everything indicates that there is no one left to wait for. That week, the air in the house seemed different. Marjorie felt a weight on her chest that she couldn't name. Her daughter was restless, as if she were hiding something big. She gave short answers, changed the subject, avoided eye contact. Even her grandchildren commented, "Mommy is acting strange, Grandma." But Marjorie pretended not to hear, because mothers learn to pretend to protect themselves. It was in the midst of this tense silence that she realized. The note was gone, the same one she had bought with the groceries earlier that week. She remembered the moment exactly. Bag on her shoulder, change counted, quick conversation with the gas station attendant. And when she got home, she put the note, as always, under the smiling magnet on the refrigerator. Now he was gone. She looked everywhere. In the back of the cutlery drawer, in the recipe book, even inside the rice jar. Nothing. She rummaged through trash, old magazines, her entire bag. With each drawer she opened, a pang in her heart. It wasn't just a lost piece of paper. It was a feeling that something much bigger was wrong. That same day, her daughter returned smiling. New clothes, manicured nails, a different sparkle in her eyes, the kind of sparkle that doesn't suit someone who is still struggling. Marjorie asked, trying to hide her distress, "You look pretty today. Any special occasion?" The answer came back dry. "I got a bonus." The smile was wide, but empty. That night, her daughter cooked like she hadn't in months. She poured wine, made small talk, even complimented her mother's hair. It was as if she were trying to put on a happy family scene. But Marjorie knew the woman too well to fall for the act. Her instincts told her, she knows about the note. She has the note. She just doesn't want to admit it. Even so, she remained silent. Because silence is a shield for those who have been hurt too much, for those who prefer to observe before accusing. She did not want to believe. Not in the daughter she carried in her arms, who she rocked to the sound of songs, who she defended even when no one else believed her. A mother's heart hesitates even in the face of evidence, but the pain of feeling that she had been deceived by the one she loved most was already beginning to take shape. In the following hours, she pretended to be normal, while the thought hammered, she wouldn't be capable, would she? But the emptiness in the refrigerator, where the note should have been, screamed an answer that she didn't want to hear yet. The worst part wasn't the disappearance of the note. It was the disappearance of trust, of complicity, of us, that which sustained the house even when there was no money. When a bond is broken, what hurts isn't the value of the loss. It's the silence that remains between two people who were once everything to each other. Marjorie went to bed late that night. She sat on the edge of her bed with the note absent from her memory and a lump in her throat. For the first time in a long time, she felt that she was no longer safe in her own home. And there, in the silence, she knew. The storm was brewing, and it was coming from within. The sky was gray when she arrived. Marjorie walked slowly, feeling the wind pushing her thin coat against her body. The suitcase was heavy, not because of the things in it, but because of the hope she carried inside. Her daughter had asked to meet her at her new home. "I want to show you something," she had said the day before, her voice excited, and she believed him. When she got there, she was met with a gleaming white facade with columns that looked like they had been borrowed from a magazine. A perfectly manicured garden, a garage with an electronic gate. The mansion even had ribbons hanging on the mailbox. Marjorie smiled innocently, thinking, she's going to show me that we've finally made it. But what came wasn't an invitation. It was a blow. The daughter appeared at the door with her arms crossed, her eyes cold, her posture erect, as if she were about to give an order. And she did. "You're not coming in," she said. "This is my house, and you'll never see a cent of that money, you old hag." The sentence cut more than any knife. It was like a punch in the stomach for someone who only wanted love. The bag fell to the ground, the same one that had been packed with neatly folded clothes, old blouses, pajamas that smelled of talcum powder, even a teddy bear from one of her grandchildren that she kept in the back. The lid opened and everything scattered across the sidewalk. The toothbrush slipped down the curb and disappeared down the drain, as if to say, "You don't belong here anymore." And behind her daughter, a man, young, handsome, with an arrogant look and a cynical smile, a stranger. She didn't even know him, but there he was, as if he owned the scene. Not even her grandchildren were there. Maybe by luck, maybe by choice, because no child should see their own grandmother being thrown out like trash on a rainy day. Marjorie didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't argue. The rain began to pour down, plastering her gray hair to her scalp. Her soaked sweater clung to her thin body, and her eyes, already swollen, could barely see through the falling drops. But she remained standing, because dignity, even when wounded, still knows how to hold its head high. She bent down slowly, picking up each piece, her hands shaking. Mud stuck to the hem of her pants. Mud crawled up her shoes. But she didn't care anymore. She was picking up not only her clothes, but the pieces of herself that had been thrown away by the ones she loved most. Her heart was bleeding, but she wouldn't let it show. As she walked away, she heard the door close behind her. A sharp click, like the end of a badly written story. There was no apology. There was no regret, only contempt. And the echo of that cruel phrase still rang out. Old hag. Marjorie had never felt so alone, so small, so disposable. But even there, wet, humiliated, stepping in puddles and trying to balance the open suitcase, something was growing inside her. Still weak, still shy, but real. A strength that didn't come from anger. It came from pain, transformed into clarity. Because sometimes you have to be expelled from someone's life to realize how much you never really had a place. Back in her simple home, Marjorie sat at the kitchen table. The kettle whistled, but she didn't get up. The steam from the water seemed like a reflection of her mind, hot, thick, ready to explode. The walls, already yellowed with age, seemed to shrink around her. The pain was still fresh, but amid the emptiness, something began to pulse. She wasn't going to leave it like this. She opened the drawer of important things, the one that mixes paid bills, photos of grandchildren, grocery coupons, and cards that no one uses anymore. And there, at the bottom, between a grocery receipt and an old brochure, was the photo. The one she took the day she bought the ticket, almost as a joke. The image was a little blurry, but it showed everything. The date, the name of the gas station, the numbers, and that was proof. She remembered a conversation with her neighbor, Mrs. Ellison, who had gone through a complicated inheritance process. If one day they take away what's yours, keep everything. Paper talks, memory fails. Marjorie never forgot. So, even though she was hurt, she gathered every piece of paper, every note. She took the brown envelope, put everything inside and taped it shut, like someone sealing a story. The next day, she went to the gas station. The attendant, Ben, smiled when he saw her, as he always did. "Ms. Marjorie, you haven't been in a while," she replied with a tight smile. "Ben, I need your help." She told him about the ticket, the disappearance, her daughter, without going into the most painful details. "Do you remember me buying the ticket last Monday?" Ben frowned. "I do. You were after that guy who was talking loudly on the phone." And there, within minutes, they were in the back room, in front of the security monitor. The image wasn't perfect, but it was enough. There she was, buying the ticket, getting the change, taking the pen from her purse and signing. Signing. Marjorie Blake. Shaky, but clear. This was more than a record. This was the moment she sealed her truth. Ben looked at her silently and said, "Do you want to record this?" She just nodded and took out her phone. Yes, in that recording, there was no speech, no accusation. Just the raw, silent reality of a woman who was discarded, but who still had a voice. It was the first step. A small record that began to crumble a lie built with luxury and contempt. That same day, she sought out her neighbor's recommendation and scheduled a meeting with Dana Whitaker, an experienced, discreet, and firm attorney. Dana listened attentively, without interrupting. When Marjorie finished speaking, she didn't ask, "Are you sure?" She simply said, "You have evidence, you have rights, and you have me." And at that moment, something changed inside her. For the first time in a long time, she felt that someone saw her. They spent hours piecing it all together. The picture of the purchase, the signature, the photo taken that day, the sequence of her daughter's inconsistent spending, already visible on social media. Each piece of the puzzle was carefully fitted together. Dana was clear. "We're not seeking revenge. We're seeking justice." And Marjorie nodded. She didn't want to destroy anyone. She just wanted to rebuild herself. While the paperwork was being organized, the mother who had always carried everything alone began to share the burden. And in that envelope, there was more than just documents. There was invisible sacrifice, silent pain, inner strength. There was the weight of someone who had been betrayed by the one she loved most, and the courage of someone who decided not to accept it in silence. While Marjorie gathered evidence outside, her daughter became a celebrity among her acquaintances. "Gratitude for the universe," she said in one caption. "Victory for those who never gave up." The photos were impeccable. Expensive coffees, designer bags, a pool with a view of the sunset. But anyone who knows the look on a mother's face knows that smile was just makeup for a truth that hurt inside. With each new post, Marjorie felt a mix of sadness and clarity. Her daughter was creating a new version of herself, without a mother, without a past, surrounded by false applause and followers who only saw brilliance. It was a character created to hide the theft of a ticket, and even worse, a story. The story of the person who supported, protected, and cared for her when she was nobody. "Free from the parasites," read one of the captions. "Now it's just me and the winners." Marjorie read it with a heavy heart. She knew it was for her, and yet she didn't react. She didn't respond. Because to respond would mean going down to the same stage, and she had chosen another path, that of silent justice, the path of those who have already understood that the truth doesn't need the spotlight, only patience. While their daughter showed off expensive handbags, Dana and Marjorie printed out evidence, Screenshots of every post, boutique tags, travel locations. Every like was a trail. Every "wow, what a beautiful life" was another nail in the cobblestones of a solid case. "She's dooming herself," Dana said, scanning the papers. "Arrogance makes our job easier." And so, without shouting, without exposing, Marjorie began to assemble the dossier of her truth. Each image her daughter posted was met with silence and archiving. Because sometimes strength lies not in confronting the aggressor, but in letting him destroy himself through his own actions. She had already lost too much to lose herself in anger again. Now it was strategy, and she was winning. Then came the first official news. The commission had frozen the prize money. Bank accounts linked to the daughter's CPF were blocked. All transactions were under investigation. The daughter didn't know. She was still smiling in selfies, still toasting on rooftops, still calling herself a victor. Meanwhile, the bomb was about to explode, and she herself had lit the fuse. On this side, Marjorie made coffee, folded clothes, played an old CD. It wasn't indifference. It was peace. Because when the truth starts to move, we don't need to chase anything else. She knew what was hers was coming back, and she didn't need to raise her voice to do it. She just had to keep her head up. Her cell phone rang frequently. Mutual friends commented on her posts. "Did you see what she said about you? Are you going to let it go?" But Marjorie just smiled with her eyes. She let the tea cool, the kettle whistle, and life go on. Because the best answer you can give to someone who discarded you is to show that you survived without having to prove anything. On the other side of the screen, her daughter still thought she had won. But justice was already underway, and her downfall would not come with scandal. It would come with silence, an official letter, bank notifications, and the end of a fairy tale based on lies. And when that happened, Marjorie didn't plan on laughing, just breathing. The phone call came on a cloudy morning. The commission attendant's voice was formal, but there was a slight pause before the sentence that would change everything. "Ms. Marjorie, your claim has been confirmed. You are the true winner." She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just closed her eyes and let her body relax for the first time in weeks. Justice had finally been served. The envelope arrived a few days later, delivered without fuss by the same mailman she had known since the days when she was still wearing her daughter's school uniform. She calmly signed, thanked him, and went inside. She opened the envelope with steady hands, as if opening not a check, but a new beginning. There was her name. The same name her daughter had tried to erase. She looked around. The kitchen was still modest. The refrigerator was making a strange noise. The living room carpet had coffee stains. Nothing here was new, but for the first time in a long time, everything here seemed weather. Not inherited, not borrowed, not conditioned by anyone's mood. It was hers, and that carried far more weight than any value written on paper. There was no party. There were no posts. She didn't call to tell anyone, not even the few friends she had left. Because Marjorie understood, not every victory needs to be celebrated out loud. Some are felt in the silence of the soul, in the relief of knowing that even after so much pain, you remain true to yourself. She used the money wisely. She paid off the house, fixed the roof that had been leaking for years, bought a new sofa, simple but comfortable. She set aside a generous portion to donate to shelters that take in abandoned women, like she once was, and with the rest, she took her grandchildren to the beach. They ran on the sand, laughed out loud, took selfies that she didn't even know how to take properly. But they were there, present, happy, no lie. Dana, the lawyer, called after the official confirmation. "Congratulations, Marjorie. It was a pleasure fighting for you." She thanked her with emotion. "You didn't just help me get the ticket back. You helped me get my name back." On the other end of the line, Dana smiled. "And your silence was your greatest weapon." Marjorie understood what that meant. She had won without destroying anyone. She didn't want to see her daughter humiliated. She didn't want bankruptcy or jail. She just wanted her daughter to know she wasn't weak. She wasn't disposable. She wasn't, and never had been, a burden. What she wanted, and finally had, was something that could never be bought: respect. And now that she had it back, she didn't want to lose it. And there, sitting on the porch she built with the prize, drinking coffee from an old ceramic mug, she felt peace. The same peace she had sought her entire life, and which she only found when she stopped waiting for recognition from others. The same peace that comes when you choose yourself, even after everyone has forgotten you. Marjorie didn't become a symbol of overcoming for anyone. She didn't make headlines. But there, in her simplicity, with her scars covered by dignity, she knew. Some victories don't come with applause. They come with silence. And with the certainty that, in the end, the truth always finds its way. It was an ordinary morning when the doorbell rang. Marjorie thought it was the mailman or a grocery delivery. But when she looked out the window, her heart stopped for a second. There was her daughter. Not the proud, made-up version with a lot of followers, but the woman behind the mask. No makeup, no posture, with deep circles under her eyes and a loose blouse that seemed too heavy for her thin body. She didn't say "Mom" sweetly. She said it wearily. "Mom, I have nowhere to go." Marjorie stood behind the curtain, motionless. Her eyes burned, but she didn't cry. The sound of that voice, long desired, now sounded like an open wound. It wasn't longing, it was survival. And instinct said, "Don't open the door." The daughter waited. She tried to insist. He said that the accounts were frozen, that her friends had disappeared, that the car had been returned. "I was wrong, Mom. Forgive me." But there were no sincere tears, only despair. The kind of despair that only appears when the fantasy collapses and the harsh truth is left. She never had a plan B because she thought her mother would always be there, waiting. Marjorie sat on the couch. She could hear the muffled voice outside, the hesitant words. She felt the urge to run, to open up, to hug. But she held back, because what she needed now was not to repeat the pattern. It was to break it. And for that, she needed emotional courage, the kind that hurts more than any absence. But that, deep down, saves. She remembered all the nights she slept, worried about her daughter, all the yeses she said with her heart in pieces. She remembered the suitcase thrown on the sidewalk, the toothbrush going down the drain, the word parasite written between the lines on social media. And she understood. Opening that door would be starting over a cycle that had already destroyed her once. The daughter kept trying. "Mom, just for a few days." Then, "I'll change, I swear." And finally, "You won, right? Now you're leaving me too." Marjorie didn't answer. She didn't even move, because it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about stopping erasing herself for others. And in that silent choice, she was recovering something that had been taken away for years, her own dignity. She knew that anyone watching from the outside might judge. How can a mother close the door in her daughter's face? But what no one knew was how many times this mother had her heart ripped out and put back in her chest, only to be crushed again. Sometimes, loving also means stopping. It also means saying, "I can't do it anymore." The daughter left without saying anything else. She didn't cry. She didn't even scream. She just walked down the street as if she didn't know where to go. Marjorie stood there, listening to the footsteps move away. Not with anger, but with a calm grief, a kind of pain that doesn't require a reaction. Only respect, because choosing yourself, after so much abandonment, is a kind of mourning and rebirth. Some bridges, when burned, reveal that perhaps they were never really solid. Marjorie understood that love is not insistence. It is true presence. And that sometimes the greatest act of love is to let the other person learn from their own emptiness. No audience, no return ticket, just silence. The kind of silence that ultimately heals. Not every mother is heard. Not every silence is oblivion. And not every yes comes from love. Sometimes it comes from the fear of losing the one we love. Marjorie spent her life giving up space, time, money, and even her own peace in the name of a bond that in the end was sustained only by her. When she finally chose silence, it wasn't because she gave up. It was because she understood that insisting too much is a slow way to die inside. Her daughter called her a parasite, a burden, an old woman. She threw away what she valued most, recognition. And yet, She didn't respond, not because she was weak, but because she knew that some battles are not won by shouting, they are won in time. Her silence was not surrender. It was strategy. It was survival. It was dignity. And it was in this silence that she recovered everything that had been slowly taken away: her respect, her identity, her voice. The woman who was once erased became a symbol of strength without needing likes, applause, or headlines. Because in the end, the world may forget, but the truth remains intact, and one day it will come back. It always comes back. How many Marjories are there out there, silent, hidden behind an apron, a forced smile, a silent social network, women who carry their entire family on their backs and are still called ungrateful? If you are one of them, maybe this is the time to stop, to breathe, to look in the mirror and ask yourself, until when will I forget myself in order to remember others? Life doesn't wait. Time passes, promises turn to dust, and those who don't choose themselves early end up being left last, even in their own story. And when that happens, not even the toothbrush is left in the drain. Only the memory of what could have been, if we had respected ourselves first. So don't wait for the final push to understand your worth. Don't wait for everything to be taken away from you to realize how much you've built. Start now, with small steps, with hesitant courage, with a trembling voice. But start, because if no one has ever told you this, I say you deserve to be chosen. And if no one else does, choose yourself. Some victories don't come with applause. They come with silence, with peace, with hot coffee in an old mug, knowing that there, in that little corner of the house, you rebuilt everything they tried to tear down. And if you've come this far, it's because there's still time. Time to start over, to get up, to understand that your story is still yours. What about you? Have you ever had to keep quiet to keep the peace? Have you ever loved someone so much that you forgot about yourself? Maybe your story doesn't have a lottery ticket, but it does have something even more valuable. A lifetime of invisible sacrifices, of silent love, of strength that no one sees. Maybe you're right now trying to remember who you were before you gave so much of yourself. Or maybe you're struggling with the guilt of finally saying, enough. Whatever your moment, know this: you're not alone. This story is about many of us. And if it touched your heart, share it. Maybe another woman, silently on the other side, needs to hear exactly this. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and stay with us. Here, each story is a wound that turns into a scar, and each scar, proof that you survived. And that, my dear, is more powerful than any award.